Hello out there, Internet. I hope you all had a great Halloween. It is every horror fan's favorite holiday, right? Anyway, welcome to episode 39 of Funny Book Splatter, a horror comics podcast brought to you by HorrorTalk.com. In hindsight, I guess I should have said Funny Book Splatter to get in the Halloween mood. Oh well, missed opportunity. Anyway, again, I'm your host, James Ferguson. This week's guest is Clay Adams, the writer of Deadskins, Pregnant Bitches of War, and Red Xmas. Clay is currently running a Kickstarter campaign to publish the next issue of Red Xmas called Oh Holy Crap. It's a fun horror comedy where Santa Claus goes off the rails. If you want to check out the entire first issue, as well as a preview of the second chapter, sign up to the Fried Comics mailing list at friedcomics.com/free. Clay can be found online on Twitter at Clay's Evil Twin, and Fried Comics can be found online at friedcomics.com and facebook.com/friedcomics. Short introduction this week. Without further ado, here is episode 39 of Funny Book Splatter with my guest, Clay Adams. Alright, so the way I recognize this show needed some form of, some sort of format, so now I start the show by asking you guys, one person that's on the other line of this, describe in this case Red Xmas. How would you describe someone if you had to pitch Red Xmas to them on a convention floor or something like that?
Great. Yeah, are you asking me now? Should I go?
Yeah, we're good.
Oh, go.
We're
Great.
We're on.
We're on.
Yeah.
We're on. Jesus.
Action.
All right. I didn't see the light blinking. Here we go. All right. So here's the elevator pitch for Red Xmas. When Mrs. Claus dies in a tragic toy accident, Santa sets out to make all those little brats pay. Now, a Santa skeptic FBI agent must team up with her wannabe elf ex-husband to save their son and Christmas.
That's brilliant. Like I've read the first issue. That was my introduction to Fried Comics, was the Kickstarter for Red Xmas #1.
Oh wow!
So, and I had backed to get digital copies of Deadskins and Pregnant Bitches of War. So I'm all caught up, I think, on the
cool.
Comics.
Oh wow,
setup.
you're an old timer.
Yeah.
I like it.
So I remember reading Red Xmas and thinking, like, this is ridiculous. This is insane, ridiculous, and just like there's nothing sacred in this book. Like it's like, I think one of the opening scenes in the first issue is Santa getting a blowjob from Mrs. Claus, and it's just like, yep, we went there. What are you gonna do about it?
That's how we roll, man. We in fact, my co-writer Alexander, he always likes to say we're the comics that go there.
Yeah, that's a good way to sum it up. I mean, and that I think is also seen in your other works too. So, like, did you have any, I guess, concerns or issues when you're writing this to think like, is this too much or is this just right?
No, I mean, I think we're always thinking about that. You know, you don't want to get too much in your head and like worry about like, I don't know, how are people going to respond to this? Because then you'd like never write anything. Mm-hmm. So I guess the barometer that we kind of use is just, you know, are we making each other laugh? And if so, great, we'll do it. And let's see where the chips fall, you know, let's see what happens. But yeah, I mean, it's always something, I think, whether you're talking about horror or comedy, you know, there's always a line. And if you stay too far away from the line, then your work isn't very interesting. And then if you cross the line, everybody will let you know. And, you know, we may have crossed the line a time or two. And, you know, it's always a little dance and trying to figure it out. But I don't know. I think we're figuring out a groove.
Yeah, well, I definitely think so. And I think there's this awesome overlay in terms of like Venn diagrams of interest between horror and dark comedy. And they're like almost just one circle, I feel, because it's just if you like horror, odds are you're going to like sick, twisted humor as well. And it's just something that I think it resonates really well in this book specifically, because it's like, all right, yeah, no, you're going to poke fun. And then all of a sudden it's like you realize, oh my God, Santa Claus is now a terrifying monster, basically, and he's just dead set on revenge, and he's got magic power. Like, there's all these things where it's like, okay, like, yeah, the dude can jump into a chimney, like, that could create a lot of murder. You know?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, you know, Santa is scary, you know, and I remember as a kid, you know, my parents were the people that always told me, like, nobody's going to break into our house. You know, we have locks on the doors. We've got an alarm system. You know, like you're totally safe. Nobody's going to bother you. Except once a year, this guy is going to magically get down the chimney and do whatever he wants in your house. And I found that terrifying. And so, you know, I think we, you know, we really kind of wanted to explore, well, what would that mean, really, you know?
Yeah, you're right in that we just kind of take that for granted that this magic fat man's going to jump down our chimney or walk into the front door if you don't have a chimney and a fireplace. That, right. Yeah, this is fine. But no, it's cool. He's going to leave some gifts, but he's going to eat that cookie. Like, he's going to take that. Right. We got to make sure we feed him, because otherwise, I don't know what's going to happen. You don't leave the cookie out,
you're screwed. Yeah.
Coal for everybody.
He's a large man. Yeah. He has to keep his energy up. If you don't feed him, there will be problems.
Yeah, and if you're bad, you get fossil fuels. Okay, it's an odd connection. Maybe that's how they're going to save the coal industry. It's just everyone's a dick this year. You all get coal.
You all get coal. I think that's a great solution. It's a win-win for everybody. You're an innovator, James. Yeah, you need to be in a cabinet somewhere.
Yeah, that's it. The secretary of dumb ideas. So that I'll see what I can do. I'm running on the platform of Santa Claus is scary. Everyone's a dick. You know, money's tight this year, so Santa
bring back coal.
Yeah, bring back coal. Santa had to lay off some elves, so you all get coal this year.
I love it. You got my vote, man.
Awesome. Now, I mean, is there anything else about Santa that, I mean, aside from what you said in terms of like the idea that this jolly fat man is going to come into your house once a year, that drew you to kind of turn him into this horror villain, essentially?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like where the actual idea came from, and I'm sure like I'm sure we're not the first people to have ever thought about this, but you know, we were, we came up with the idea like 20 years ago.
Wow.
Alexander and I, we wrote a screenplay, and so I can't remember where the genesis came from, but we knew that we wanted to do something. It was like Nightmare on Elm Street. We were kind of like riffing on Nightmare on Elm Street, I think, and like, well, what else comes to you in your sleep? Other than than it could be like Freddy Krueger in dreams. We were like, well, what else could terrorize you in your sleep? And we were like, Santa Claus. Like, you're sleeping, you're at your most vulnerable, and there's a strange guy breaking into your house. And so, and yeah, just like you said, like we just started thinking about, well, yeah, he's got all these magical powers, and just think of all these things he could do. He can control elves, and he can make reindeer fly, and what else could this guy do if he got unhinged? So then, of course, like we start thinking like, well, what would change him from this nice, sort of jolly elf to this evil demon beast, and there's this trope in a lot of movies where it's like the wife dies or the girlfriend dies or whatever, and then suddenly now this guy is just totally unhinged.
Yeah,
right?
in the case of John Wick, the dog dies, and it's there's something that's gonna make him snap.
Yes, it doesn't look good for Santa's dog either. But yeah, so he just snaps and he still goes out. He's sort of forced, in the first issue, he's forced out to go, because it's Christmas Eve when this happens. So the elves sort of just put him on the sleigh and kind of hope for the best. But his night just gets worse and worse and worse when he meets our main character, Byron. He's this kid Byron and his mom Ellie. And it's really Red Christmas is really a story about family, and that's kind of what's at the heart of it. So it's really going to be what happens when Santa meets Byron and Ellie, and her estranged ex-husband, that things sort of like really hit the fan. Mm-hmm. So Byron and Santa have a little bit of a conflict, and things just get worse from there.
Yeah, I doubted it was going to say, look, and then they all lived happily ever after. And
they will not live happily ever after.
Now, you mentioned that you did this as a screenplay years and years ago. Has the story changed from that initial screenplay to the way the comic is shaping up?
Yes and no. So when we wrote the screenplay, like we weren't terribly good writers, and we were, we were fresh out of college. Alexander and I both went to NYU, and we met in the dramatic writing program there. So we were fresh out of college. We were still young writers, and back then NYU had this thing. It was called it was like the log book or the log line book. So you could pitch a log line for a screenplay, and then they would circulate it among like production companies and agents and managers in Hollywood. So we came up with this pitch, and we were like, oh, well, we'll send out the log line, and then if anybody responds to it, we'll write the screenplay. But we're not going to waste our time writing the screenplay, unless somebody's interested. Mm-hmm. And then it turned out a lot of people were interested in it, and like wanted to see the script like yesterday. And then suddenly we were like, oh crap.
What have we done?
What have we done? We've got to write the script. So I was still living in New York at that time. Alexander was living in Denver, Colorado. So I got on an airplane and flew to Denver, and we banged out the script in like a weekend. And I really don't recommend that. We didn't sleep. Like I remember at one point, Alexander like literally talking me down off the roof. It was like it was a bad scene, but we got it done. We got the script written, and like the basic outline of the story is the same. It hits all the same beats. But certainly some motivations have changed, some other things have changed, and now that we're doing this as part of Fried Comics, we're now incorporating characters from other Fried Comics series mm-hmm. into this story. So if you're a fan of Pregnant Bitches of War, this is an alternate reality, an alternate timeline. And so you kind of get to see some of those characters, Birdie and Leslie and Bristol. Those characters are in the book. Leslie shows up in this new issue we're working on. So we are kind of incorporating those characters into the story as well, and we've written the Fried Diner in there as well. So Frida has a cameo or a small role. And then some things have changed. This is a very long answer to your question, and so some things have changed. But really, like the bones of it, I think were always solid, mm-hmm. and so that's the skeleton's the same. It's really just sort of all the stuff hanging on it that's different.
Do you think you'd ever show people the screenplay now? Like, is that like a stretch goal for the Kickstarter campaign?
No. I'd probably be too embarrassed, mm-hmm. I mean, maybe, I guess if people are interested in seeing how something develops, I don't know how, I mean, I don't know. Are people interested in that? I'm not sure.
I mean, like, I think process is always something that people that I know I definitely respond to, because I know that there's usually things where it's like, here's the PDF, or here's like the deluxe PDF with the script and concept art and this other stuff, so you can kind of get a peek into the process. That's unique. Like I don't know that I've ever seen that idea of like, hey, here's the initial kind of like, this is where all this started, 20 years ago maybe, and it's like now you can look at that. I mean, unless there's like spoilers for where the series is going, but you have this idea of like, well, this was the initial thing. We wrote it for one medium, and then here's how we adapted it into another one.
Yeah, it might be worth like taking individual scenes or something, maybe, and comparing. I would be the insecure writer in me would be very very ashamed to show such early work. Like if somebody sat down and God forbid made it through the whole screenplay. I'd be less worried about spoilers and more worried about their confidence in our ability to pull this off. But it was 20 years ago, and we're much better writers now. I mean, I think we're better writers now than we were 3 years ago. So it's I don't know. It's always tough to kind of show off the early stuff. Yeah. But I think that's actually a great it's not a bad idea maybe to take some individual scenes and compare, well, here's what it looked like in the screenplay, and here's what it looks like in the comic book. And I do have to say, James, Santa did get a blowjob on the first page of our screenplay.
That made it through. That was like, you know what? We got to make sure this is an integral to this process. We have to make sure it's in there.
It's like a game of Jenga, right? You pull out the Santa blowjob, and like the whole story falls apart.
It all hinges on that, and that's it.
It does. It's chaos theory.
That's awesome. Now I know I don't remember when the first issue had kind of debuted. It feels like it was a while ago, and I feel like this is like a dick question to ask, but like, why the gap between the first issue and the next?
It's not a dick question at all. It's a totally reasonable question, and it has a long sort of convoluted answer. So so here we go. Here's another long convoluted answer. This podcast is going to be like 8 hours long. So so we started the second issue immediately after the Kickstarter ended for the first one. And in fact, the script that we're using now is essentially the same one that we gave our artist right after that first issue. We've freshened up some dialogue, but essentially it's the same. Mm-hmm. But what happened was the artist got very, very busy with he got hired by, I think, first DC. To do some work on Prez, and then he was hired by Marvel to draw, was it Starbrand and Nightmask? And so he got very, very busy, and it was becoming just obvious that this second issue was never going to happen. And we were thrilled for him. I mean, it's fantastic for him.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have, especially if you're working with friends and colleagues, to go like, oh, hey, you got successful. But I can understand how it kind of sucks if you're like, well, we were hoping to do this next, but if you really want to move your career up, you're gonna. I guess you could go and write about Superman or something.
Sure, yeah, right. If you want to make way more money working for the big two comic companies, fine. We were totally happy for him, but it did become obvious that this just wasn't going to happen anytime soon. So we had to kind of part ways. And then some other like weird things happened all at the same time. Like it feels like it was a long time ago because it was like the very end of 2014 when we kickstarted it. But during the Kickstarter, like one of our backers approached us and was like, "Hey, I love what you're doing. I want to give you $50,000 for like a portion of the company, and you guys can just like go make all the books that you want to make." And we were like, well, this sounds fantastic. This is great.
What's the catch? Like, and just sign away your soul.
Right. Yes, exactly. So here's the catch, James. I'll tell you what the catch is. So the catch was, I think the guy was full of it. And so he, but he really wasted a lot of our time and our money. Like we, so then we were like, well, look, drop a contract and we'll read it. And he came up with this thing that we then passed along to a lawyer, and as you know, lawyers are not cheap. And so the lawyer looked at it and looked at it and looked at it, and he got back to us and was like, this looks like a kindergartner wrote this in crayon. Oh. He was like, this is not any kind of contract. We need to rewrite the contract. And we're like, all right, well, rewrite this contract. We'll present it to this guy. So they did the new contract, and the guy was sort of hemming and hawing, but he was like, meanwhile, this whole time he was like, I'll pay your legal bills, have your lawyer write the contract. I'm going to pay the legal bill. Don't worry about whatever it is. So spoiler alert, he did not. So we wound up getting stuck with this huge legal bill. This guy kind of like vanished, like never to be seen again. So kind of at the same time, we're like, we lost our artist. We found ourselves like the money we had to make the next issue was now going to this legal bill.
I don't even understand what like his con was. Like none of that. What did he get out of it? You guys didn't pay him anything, right? Like so
we paid him nothing.
Yeah.
He got nothing.
So he's just like an asshole that wanted to come in and just like, hey, let me see if I can fuck with these guys for a little bit. Like,
I think
it's really weird.
It was really strange. I don't know if he had like. I don't know if he had good intentions or whatever, but we did kind of do some due diligence, and as we were kind of working on this, we started to find out this guy had kind of a shady past, and like a history of doing this to other like much bigger companies.
Yeah, but it's again like it's not like I can see if you're an artist that's trying to like scam someone and say, "Oh, well, yeah, pay me half up front," and then you kind of disappear. Like, I remember seeing all those articles on Bleeding Cool about that kind of stuff. But this just seems like he just wants to like create chaos. He's out there. He's Loki. Just like, I want to just fuck with people and see what happens.
Loki actually was his name. His given name.
That should have been your first clue.
I should have that should have tipped me off. I guess there was no motivation other than I don't know, maybe he's lonely and this is his way of making himself feel important. I don't know.
So strange.
But it definitely it really demoralized us and left us broke. And then I don't know how much I can get into here, but we were approached by another comic company to write a tie-in with a major movie franchise. And then suddenly we kind of our spirits got picked up a little bit, right? And that was awesome. But then it was now we're focused on that, and we're drafting pitch after pitch after pitch, and when you're working with licensed characters, it really is it's their baby and it's not your baby, and so whatever they accept today, they might throw out tomorrow. Yeah. And so it really was just a process of months and months and months of creating pitch after pitch after pitch and getting an artist on to do some concept art for that and presenting that. And then the comic company likes it, and then the parent company likes it, but then there's another company that has a say, and they're we don't want to do too much. Let's pull back. And
I do wonder how some licensed comics ever get made, because there's so many cooks in that kitchen, and at the end of the day, the writer and the artist just want to make a cool comic book.
Yeah,
but they have to please all these different masters.
Yeah, and it would, if it had happened, it would have been a great thing, and there's nothing to say that it won't happen one day. But that kind of took us on a long detour. So by the time all that was over, and we were sort of faced with, all right, well, we gotta find another artist. We want to continue this series. Let's do that. And we also have to address this money problem left over from the legal bills. So that's when I kind of started getting involved with the list launch course with Tyler James and sort of building the mailing list and so then I had this idea that we never really sold a trade paperback of Pregnant Bitches of War. We never put that into print. So let's do that as a Kickstarter, because that's a thing that we have now. We don't have to pay anybody. It's already paid. It's out of our own pocket. So let's sell that on Kickstarter, and then let's use the money. So let's try to do this in a way that's smart, that kind of guarantees us having some money left over, and then let's use that money to pay an artist to start drawing this next issue of Red Xmas. And that's what we did. And I kind of got inspired by Charlie Stickney, who does White Ash. He found his artist through Reddit. And so that's what I did. I just put an ad up on Reddit.
Yeah, the comic book collaborations forum?
Yes.
Or subreddit?
Yeah, and we got so many fantastic submissions. It was really hard to nail it down to one person, but an Italian artist named Fabio Ramacci replied, and he was just I have always wanted to draw a comic book like this. He said, to be honest, I don't really match the style of the last guy, but I would be willing to draw a test page for you guys at no charge. And just something about his enthusiasm, really, that's who you want to work with. Yeah. You want to work with the person that wants to do it. And he just knocked it out of the park. I'm so ecstatic to get this book out there.
That's awesome. I love this. That was like a roller coaster ride of emotion right there. Of just we're up, we're down. This guy's, I don't know what he's doing. He's trying to swindle us, maybe, but
yes,
that's incredible though. But you're able to just turn it all around. It's you at the end of the day, you had already made comics, so it was just I just want to make more of these. And you looked at what you had. It's like that thing with was it Robert Rodriguez when he made El Mariachi? He looked around and he's
Yes.
like, I have a turtle and a guitar case and a jacket, and I'll use all those things, and that was what he did. And
That's totally the way I was looking at it. Like, okay, what are our assets? What can we use? What can we do to move this ball forward?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think, like, as creative artists, it's so easy for us to be constantly focused on what's the next thing, what's the next thing, what's the next thing,
Yeah.
that we're not really looking at what we actually have. So that was definitely part of my calculation.
Yeah, and I think the way that you structured it, in that, you know, you took the money from one to pay the next, is all right. You're always looking forward there. But I do notice that, like, I'm on your newsletter too, so I'm seeing that come through, and it's like that didn't seem to, like, die down. You could see, like, it's funny because I feel like with a lot of the creators I talk to, I can tell which ones listen to Comics Launch and which ones don't, from like the way they approach a Kickstarter campaign or the way they market themselves. So
Right.
Tyler James is definitely doing some good work out there.
He's doing great stuff.
But I see that and I'm like, oh, okay, like, even though there wasn't like a new book coming out, you're still maintaining that connection with the audience. And I can tell you from my personal experience, I've signed up for way too many newsletters because, like, now everyone's asking, like, in the Kickstarter, like, survey, hey, can you sign up for my newsletter? I'm like, yeah, sure. And then, like,
Of course,
6 months later, I get an email and I'm like, who the hell is this guy? Like, what book did I back that I got on this list? And that wasn't the case with Fried Comics, because it was a matter of, like, okay, as a reminder, here's what it is. Here's Frida as kind of like this spokesperson for the group, and you're kind of staying in the inbox, not enough to, like, annoy anybody, but just enough to be like, hey, we're still here. Don't forget about us, which I think is working to your benefit, and hopefully to show in terms of the number of backers you'll get for this new campaign.
Yeah, well, it definitely helped with the PBOW trade. Like, we saw, I mean, most of the traffic came from the newsletter. So that's huge. And first of all, I appreciate you being a subscriber, a reader. One of the things that, like, I wanted to do with it is not annoy people, but yes, to remind them that hey, we're here. So we send it out about twice a month, every 2 weeks. And one of the things that I really wanted to do with it is make it kind of like an online letter column. Because to me, like, when I was a kid, I loved reading the stories in comics, but the letter column to me was like where the action was, because that's where, like, fans would write in and then the editors would reply, and maybe you'd get some behind the scenes peek at something. And I find even now, like, when I go back and I'll reread some of my old comics from my childhood, I'm much less interested in rereading the story, and I'll just find myself, like, reading through the letters columns. Mm-hmm. And so for me, like with Frida's mailing list, it was just super important that like it try to be more like a letters column, a place for like fans to write in and us to respond, and less like hey, here's kind of all about me and here's what I'm doing. That's not a criticism of, like, what anybody else is doing. Like, there are a lot of fantastic newsletters out there that are sort of creator centric, but that just didn't feel right to do for me. Mm-hmm. So this has been, like, it's been cool. It's been a lot of fun. It's been nice to see, like kind of like you said, like how well the audience is engaged, even when we don't have a book coming out. So that was really encouraging to me, and then to see them come out for the last campaign was amazing. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what's going to happen with this new one.
Yeah, and you put things in there to say, you know, here's a they're like, you just want to ask questions to people, like, what's a book you're liking right now, and, like, you'll just send out a book to someone that has nothing to do with Fried Comics, but you're just like, hey, thanks for actually engaging with this newsletter. Here's something for free.
Yeah, and I just, you know, I just think that would be cool if so, like last year, I participated in something on Facebook where it was like just a random book swap. And so it was like I don't even remember how they structured it, but it was basically like you respond to the thing if you want some random person to send you a book. And then, like, so I wound up getting, I mean, like 15 novels sent to me. Wow. In the mail. And like stuff I never would have picked up on my own. but it was somebody's favorite novel. So like you'd send them your favorite thing, and you only have to send one book, right? But because there are so many people participating, one person gets multiple books. And I thought that was so cool. So I wanted to do that as part of the newsletter, just have Frida say, hey, like, here's a comic that I like and I think you might like. So let's pull a name out of a hat and we'll just send you that book. And it's been like, it's been cool. I think the people who have gotten them have been very appreciative. Like we just sent out a thing for our street team, and I had one person respond who said they wanted to be on Frida's street team for this new campaign, and it was somebody we had sent a book to, and she was like, I'm there for you, Frida, my friend, you know, and I just thought
that Frida's like not a real person.
It's funny, like Frida gets the greatest emails. Frida, there are some, like, I'll get some stuff and I do sort of wonder, like, does this person does know that like Frida is not real, right?
Yeah, they're like, you're Frida?
Yeah.
Spoiler, like, sorry. I don't. There's someone listening right now going, wait, what?
Frida is real. I'm sorry. Santa is real. Frida is real. I'm sorry if we're like destroying anyone's childhood or adulthood for that matter at this point. But yeah, she gets some super interesting emails, and but I'll respond. I'll write back as Frida, and we'll have I'll have whole conversations with people as Frida. It's pretty great.
That's great. Like, how has that? I mean, you're essentially writing as a character. Is that just kind of like practice for future comics and stuff to be like, yeah, and then this is what she might say? And I mean, you created the character, so it's just a matter of continuing her voice in different settings.
Yeah, I think we wanted to make, you always want to make that like attractive character, like whether it's Ronald McDonald or whatever, that thing you associate with the company. So she was sort of what we came up with, like it's our Elvira. Mm-hmm. And I guess, like, in some ways, I kind of think maybe I'm making a mistake by writing this newsletter in character, because, like, when people think of Fried Comics, like, they're thinking of Frida and not necessarily, me or Alexander or any of the artists that are involved. But it's too much fun. Like, I just like doing it. Mm-hmm. I like thinking in her voice how she might respond to things, and people seem to like her. We had one person write in saying, Frida needs her own series. Like, you've got to make her own comic. So we put that up to the readership and said, hey, should we have a comic for Frida? And a lot of people wrote back and said yes. And so he said, all right, well, what should we call it? So we had kind of a fan contest to name the story. So it's the winning entry was Frida, hard-boiled and over-easy, and that's gonna be a 6-page backup in the new issue of Red Xmas.
That's what I see. And that's the kind of, like, you're making fans for life in those cases, because they're seeing, I wrote in and that was fun, but then they listened to me and I titled this comic. Like, that's something that, like, that guy's gonna go out and just, like, buy a bunch of copies and start showing his friends, like, see that? I thought of that. That's me. I'm in a comic book, kinda.
Yeah, well, what's really cool is that, the person that submitted it was Kyle Roberts, who is a fantastic artist in his own right. So then when we picked his winning entry, he was like, I'll draw it for you guys if you want.
Wow, that's great.
So he's drawing it. So I hope he shares with all of his friends.
Going back to Red Xmas, there. I mean, with the first issue had Santa. You had some horrific scenes with the reindeer that I was flipping through the issue again, and just, like, there's a shot. I don't want to, like, spoil too much, but, like, this horrible shot of them flying away, and not all of them are alive, but they're still stuck to the sled, and it's like, oh, that is just disturbing. But do you have plans to bring in any other, like, Christmas characters that into the mix?
Yeah, so we have so we're expanding the mythology here in this next issue. In fact, we have this whole mythology around Santa's wives, because really, like, the character of Santa has always been essentially the same. But if you look back at pop culture throughout the years, Mrs. Claus has never ever been portrayed consistently. So maybe she's Jessica Claus in one thing, or she's this other person in something else, and she's like this young hottie in this one thing, and she's an old lady in this other thing. So we're really in this issue, we're really kind of having fun with that, and we kind of have this. I don't think this is spoilery to say, but we have this conceit that basically every few years this happens, where Santa's wife dies because she's not immortal in the way that Santa is, and Santa kind of goes crazy, like it's a thing that happens, and all the elves know it. In fact, the last time it happened was it turned into the Great Elf Holocaust of 1962. So they're all trying to prevent this elf holocaust from happening again. But we do have this gallery where you see all of his former wives stuffed. He likes to keep them stuffed.
That's not weird at all.
It's not weird at all. It's not strange at all. But yeah, so we're kind of playing with that mythology. You'll see Jessica Claus from those old what were they? The stop motion animation.
Yeah, Rankin Bass.
Yes. So she plays a little role in this, her evil spirit. And let's see, what else? What other mythology do we play with?
I feel like the big thing, well, it was like maybe a year or two ago, was Krampus, and like all of a sudden everyone realized that was a legend and just threw a bunch of stories and movies out there. I think that's starting to die down, but unless you want to bring it back up by putting it back into Red Christmas.
We don't have Krampus, and I'm kind of glad, because that did become a big thing not that long ago. Mm-hmm. Like I remember with Pregnant Bitches of War, we had Tesla in there, and when we created this thing, some of these things gestate for a really long time, and especially with indie comics, like things just take a long time to progress. So by the time the book came out, Tesla was all over the place. Yeah. And I remember reading a couple of reviews that were like, "Oh, Tesla again?" But it's like, well, when we came up with it, we
were doing it before it was cool.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm kind of glad that we don't have Krampus in there. But maybe we'll give some kind of nod in a future issue.
I wasn't saying that to be like, I can't believe you didn't put Krampus in it. I think it's a good move in that, like, you don't need to. I think, because that could also take away from Santa. Like, Santa's the bad guy here, like the dude, like it's just like he looks like a serial killer in a lot of these scenes, and it's like, if you suddenly had, oh yeah, and here's like a hooved demon, like, okay, what about the fat guy that was just murdering people? Like, he just threw that dude through the ceiling. Like, should we be afraid of him still? Is he going to save us from the monster? Like, what's the deal here?
Yeah, we want to keep the focus on Santa. But we do bring in some other characters. Like, there's not in this issue, but in a future issue, there's we bring in the Easter Bunny. There's I think our Domo Stanton, who drew the first issue, like when he was drawing a teaser poster for us, he like threw in this leprechaun riding a turkey. So that character is going to be in there. So like there are all these other. We're bringing in a lot of other mythical characters that kind of come in to sort of stop Santa. And there might be some carnage among them. And we also sort of created this character for the new issue that is maybe like a forgotten Christmas legend from India. So that's a character that's going to play a big part in this. So we are having fun with the mythology.
It sounds it. And it's like this more deadly version of Nightmare Before Christmas, in that it's just it's kind of like, it's horror, but it's also, still holiday movie. So it's like there's that debate with that movie, like, well, is it a Halloween movie? Is it a Christmas movie?
Or is it a Christmas movie?
Yeah. With this, it's like, no, this is definitely Christmas. But like, if you have other holiday characters popping up in here, then it's like it's like they're all part of a league of some kind. That it's just like, we all keep our holidays sacred, but Santa's getting out of line. We got to do something here.
So now we have to team up. It's like this Justice League of I don't know, holiday characters. Yeah. But yeah, we because one of the things that we wanted to do, right, was was to create a holiday special. In fact, we're calling the new the Kickstarter. It's a Yuletide special for holiday haters. and And one of the things that we wanted to do was to create this holiday special. Like, I mean, I sort of think about those guys that created like the Rankin and Bass stuff, you know, the TV shows and movies like Elf and even songs. Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer. The holiday special is so big in so many other mediums that there are some that exist in comics, but like I can't really like pinpoint the one that you're like that's the one, right? And not saying we're necessarily going to hit that target, but one of our goals was like we want to create a holiday special that you can remember and you can be a part of, and we want everybody to be a part of it. So that's why we're doing it on Kickstarter, is because we do sort of like that interactive feel, bringing in the audience. So our tagline is Santa must die, join the execution. So we really...
Nothing gets you into the holiday spirit like join the execution.
Join the execution. So we really want to bring people in and make it kind of an event. So yeah, I mean, like that really is kind of like one of the things we were aiming for, is to make this holiday special. But you're right that it does, you know, is it dark humor or is it horror? I don't know. But but we're having fun and we hope the readers do too.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
It's almost funny, like you can have people like, if you didn't get what you wanted that year, like take it out on Santa. You know? And
That's
like,
right.
Don't you remember that time when you didn't get that Super Nintendo? Well, join the execution.
We've got the guy responsible.
Yeah.
Let's take him down.
Now, what do you have planned for the Kickstarter? I mean, it sounds like you're following the gospel according to Tyler James, so I think you'll be pretty set up there. But I mean, are you planning anything special for the Kickstarter campaign?
Yeah, we actually have a few things planned, and I don't know if you can hear. My cat is very happy about it. He's like standing right outside the door, meowing to get in.
Special guest star in the ad industry. We call that added value.
Oh, I like that. I like that. Well, you're gonna get a heck of a lot of added value unless he shuts up. Yeah, we do have a few special things planned. So one is that we do have this backup story starring Frida. We also, I decided we were originally going to launch on Halloween, but I decided we're going to wait and launch maybe like a couple of days later so we can take part in this commissions thing.
I don't know if you're...
Okay, so Kickstarter has now started doing theme months. So they had one that was like make 100.
Yeah.
So you would like limit your run to 100 of whatever this thing is, right? They had, I think they had a few that it was like 1 week campaigns or whatever. Mm-hmm. So like every month has been themed. So the theme for November is commissions. And I thought it would be cool. So one of the things that we've done that we actually haven't released to our mailing list yet, but it's I wrote a song about Frida that I used to be a professional musician. So I wrote a song about Frida that kind of goes along with this backup story, and it's and for reasons maybe not worth getting into quite right now, but it goes along with the story, but it's kind of like a Mexican pop song.
Okay.
So the conceit, right, is that Frida used to live in Tijuana, and she used to have this special show, if you will, in Tijuana, and her act was so popular that the Mexican Michael Jackson, Miguel Wanson, wrote a song about her, and it was a pop hit. It was like #1 on the Mexican pop charts for 1 whole week before it was pulled from radio for gross indecency. And I wrote this song in like a couple of hours and then spent a week recording it. And so we're gonna give that away as like an MP3, but we are putting it on a record.
Oh,
so
cool.
Yeah, so it's like this 7-inch square record. I don't know if you were familiar with like Nexus back in the day. Mike Barron and Steve Rude. Yes.
I think they're being published through like collections or through I think Dark Horse now.
Yes, yeah, correct. Yeah, that's a great series, and in one of their early issues, they gave out like a 7-inch square record that had like an audio recording of the comic book. We're not doing that. We might do that if there's enough demand for it, but right now we're putting the song, which is called Yellow Ribbon Frida. We're putting that on the record. And then Miguel Wanson is taking commissions. So if you would like a pop song, a Mexican pop song written about you, or your pet, or your loved one, or whoever else you want it written about, you can commission Miguel Wanson to write and record the song for you, and he will send you a one-of-a-kind 7-inch square record that no one else will have, just you. It's a one-of-a-kind thing.
That's a pretty unique Kickstarter reward. Like I that's something I've personally never seen that before. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's we were just trying to think of what are some different things we can do, some different talents and skill sets we can use to kind of make it a little bit different. And I don't know, that's what we came up with.
Well,
that
also goes back to what you were saying before, and that you looked around at what you had available, and you're like, hey, I'm a musician, I could make music for people as a Kickstarter reward, so why not? That's something that not everyone has access to.
Yeah, and it's not even really like I sat down and I thought about this so much. It's more that like this song kind of just came to me, so I wrote it and then I recorded it, and then when the commissions thing came up, it was like, well, why not open that up as a commission? Because that way, I don't know that we could do custom comics at this point, because then you got to pay the artist and figure kind of all that out, and there's a lot more moving parts. But it's a whole lot easier for me to write and record a song than it is to coordinate comics. Mm-hmm. But maybe we'll do custom comics one day.
Yeah, but I also don't know that that's necessary for it. Like it's your time. You're already in there, so it's for you. It might be easier. Just make a few songs. You can record it. You have all the devices or whatever you need to record everything. So yeah, you're kind of set and using your skill set to do that. It makes total sense.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, like you said, it was just more looking around at what we had and what can we do, and just wanting to make it a little bit different, And we do have some of the more like traditional comic Kickstarter rewards. We do have a cameo. You can pay a certain amount of money and get drawn in as a mall Santa. In the book,
you can get the comic itself. I imagine that'll probably
you can get the comic itself. Yeah, you can get the comic itself. We actually have a Frida T-shirt that you can get. We've put her mug on a T-shirt, and we're gonna have that as a reward. We also have one of the things that we do is we have our producers club, which is criminy. Now, like, my neighbor is like trimming, so now we've got like motor in the background. We've got like animal meowing.
All right, well, we'll take care of it in post, or I'll make it worse. We'll figure it out.
Please, he took your note about making it worse. Yeah. He just got like 10 times louder. So another reward we have is our producers club, which is this kind of came up during our last Kickstarter, which was that we wanted to. I'm not really like ready to take the leap on a Patreon or however the heck you say it. I wasn't really ready to take that leap yet, but I did kind of want to have something that was like a little more of a personal interaction, a little more of step behind the curtain, gentle reader, than say Frida's mailing list or our regular Facebook page. So I created this producers club where some of our higher tier backers they get a link to this private Facebook group. And in the private Facebook group is like, it's me and it's Alexander and Tabor, who does our logos, and Fabio, who's drawing the book. And you kind of like interact with all of us, and we're posting sneak peeks. We're posting, works in progress. I've posted scripts. So maybe that screenplay is something I'll give to the producers club.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea.
I've been posting scripts and works in progress, and people the people inside have really seemed to respond to it. And one of the things that they really kind of dig, which surprised me, but so one of them had asked like a question of like, what's like your top 5 books on writing, right? So I started thinking about it, and so I listed my top 5, and I kind of like wrote a description of all of them, but then there's one that really resonated with me, and it's by a guy named John York. He's a British TV writer and I think maybe director, but he's a British TV writer, and he wrote this book called Into the Woods: A 5-Act Journey into Structure. And it blew my mind. Like it completely changed the way I thought about telling stories. And I used to kind of think, and even though I had read like Blake Snyder, Save the Cat, and all this other stuff, Story by Robert McKee, storytelling was always something that was kind of like weird to me. Like I couldn't quite figure it out. I knew what I liked, but I couldn't really tell what I was doing. And this just totally unlocked everything. And it really made everything very, very clear. So what I've been doing in the Producers Club is I've been taking various things and analyzing them through that prism of 5-act structure. And the people inside have really responded to that. So far I've broken down both the novel and the movie of Jurassic Park, because they have slightly different structures. Mm-hmm. But I go and I analyze those in detail in terms of their 5-act structure. I've analyzed Batman Year One. I did each issue individually. It was a 4-issue miniseries originally. I did each issue individually, and then I did the whole story, like just looked at the overall story as a whole in terms of 5-act structure. We looked at the DreamWorks animated feature Trolls, and
it's been on repeat in my house. I have two small kids, and it's Trolls and Moana all day long.
Yes, classics, yes. Right? Trolls. I wasn't expecting to like as much as I did, but I did. Yeah, I liked it a lot. I thought it was well structured, and the soundtrack is pretty darn awesome. Yeah. And then we also looked at the 5-act structure for Frida, Hard Boiled, and Over Easy. So we kind of looked at like, how can you use this structure to write a novel? How can you use this structure to make a live action movie? How can you use this structure to write an individual comic book issue? How do you use it to write a mini series? How do you use it to write an animated feature? Mm-hmm. How do you use it to write a 6-page short story? And it really can be used for everything. And so that's been something that I've been doing a lot of, and people have really seemed to feel like they're getting some value for that. So I'm really glad that they're enjoying that. But that's anyway. That's maybe a tangent we didn't need to go off on. But
no, that shows the more of what you can do, and you're offering to the people that are supporting you and to keep them as loyal readers. So it all makes sense there. So
yeah. Like I said, it was just kind of like, hey, come behind the curtain. Let's see how this is done. And and frankly, like a lot of people that support Kickstarters or read comics, they're writers themselves, mm-hmm. or artists themselves. In fact, we had one. Just a member of the club was a.
Clay, hold on, I'm losing you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I just heard you cut out when I heard. In fact, I had one member, and then it just went silent for a second. So can you just say that again?
Santa got me. Okay. Yeah. In fact, I had one member who was just a backer who posted some lettering critiques, like, here's how you letter a comic book, and it was brilliant. I mean, it was great stuff. In fact, our artist Fabio was looking at it and was like, this is amazing. This is like really good stuff to know how to do. So it is very interactive, and I think we're all kind of learning from each other, and it's a lot of fun. I know for me, kind of the way I was saying, like the letter column in comics was always to me somehow a little bit more interesting than the actual story. I love reading all of Stephen King's introductions to his books, mm-hmm. right? Where it feels like he's talking directly to the reader. He's telling them, how this is done, how he created this story. He maybe gives a little bit of context to each story. I always thought that was super cool. And anyway, that's what we're trying to do at Fried.
Yeah, look, I think you're doing all the right things with this, and it sounds like you've prepared, you've done all the homework, and now it's just like off to the races. Let's make a shitload of comics. So, where do you envision Red Xmas going in terms of number of issues? It sounds like you have future ones planned out. How long is the series?
So the original idea was that it would be like a 5-issue miniseries. All of our other comic books have come in at about 5 issues, and that seems to be, it actually tracks along with the 5-act structure. 6 issues would be ideal, but that's tough with indie comics. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna say somewhere between 4 and 6 issues. But the hope is that we can get them out, now that we're rolling again, we can get them out a whole lot quicker, and that we don't have that gap like we had between issues 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. But the plan for this campaign right now is that we're going to put the first 2 issues together in a really big compilation with the backup story and some other backup features. And we're calling that Red Xmas. Oh, holy crap! And my dream is to put together maybe issues 3 and 4 in another one next year, and call it Red Xmas, Silent but Deadly Night. Mm-hmm. And then I guess if we don't finish it in that one, we'll have one more or maybe another. Yeah. Did that very vaguely answer your question?
Yeah. Well, look, you've got a future plan for it, is what it ultimately comes down to.
Yes.
So it's going someplace, and you did all the homework to set it all up to continue the series in a timely manner. So this is obviously, we'll link up the Kickstarter campaign in the show notes for this episode. I'll be there ready to back as well. So, because I do put my money where my mouth is for this kind of show. But otherwise, where are the best places for folks to find you and Fried Comics online?
Yeah, so you can go to friedcomics.com, and that's where you can read more about our series. You can also go to our Facebook page. It's just Fried Comics. You can find me on Twitter. I am at Clay's Evil Twin. And connect. I'd love to chat with you. And hey, you can actually get on Frida's mailing list, join her letter column, her online letter column. If you go to friedcomics.com/free, we'll send you first issues of Pregnant Bitches of War, Deadskins, and Red Xmas. We'll also send you Refried Comics #1, which is another thing we do, and we'll also give you the 5-page black and white preview of this new issue of Red Xmas. So we'll send you a ton of free comics at friedcomics.com/free, and then you'll get to join the fun. You can join about 1,000 or so other frequent friars on Frida's mailing list.
Frequent friars, that's awesome. So this is awesome, Clay. This is a really fun chat. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. Red Xmas, it's again like that Venn diagram of horror for dark comedy. It's in that sweet spot right in the middle there. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. But
thank you so much.
That about does it then for this episode of Funny Book Splatter. I have been James Ferguson with my guest Clay Adams. You've been listening to Funny Book Splatter, a horror comics podcast brought to you by HorrorTalk.com. We've been bringing you the best in horror since 2002. In addition to comics, we cover movies, TV shows, books, and video games. We've got news, reviews, guest features, interviews, unboxing videos, and much more. Be sure to sign up to Steve's Deals newsletter to increase your horror collection without breaking the bank. Check us out at HorrorTalk.com and at HorrorTalk on Twitter.